Let's get into this. Not that this has to be structured like the former Beat It movie reviews for people who are watching or listening, pre-recorded or whatnot. This is the return of the former podcast Beat It movie reviews. Um, and we're back, baby. We're back and worse than ever, actually.
Yeah, we took time off to make sure we could come back even worse. We
Yeah, you thought
did
it was bad
polling.
before.
Yeah, yeah. We got polls going. Whatever was the lowest rated thing, we said, you know what? We're gonna dive head first into those.
Yeah, what don't you like? And they said everything. We said we're going to bring everything back. We pulled some polls, some Polacks. Is Polak a racist term, or is it okay because they're generally white?
I think I think it's that one is more of
Like Mick,
the words
if I called
surrounding
someone a
it,
Mick.
like the show.
That, well, yeah, shoot. Was that show a racist Irish person term?
I think no.
Told you it was going to get worse, everybody. But yeah, we want to talk about some movies and shit we've been watching. It's actually been quite a while since we talked anything. So much stuff has come out. We've even had our top 10 of the year come out. So we are going to eventually talk about Wolfman. But I think we could save that for a little bit later and talk about some other stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, actually, so funny thing, I didn't
You
get
didn't
to
see
see.
it.
I was hoping my friend was gonna be able to come with me, and then he ended up being sick, and said maybe he can come see it today.
Your
He was
friend,
like,
well, he got scratched by some thing that was in the woods and started to get sick and not.
yeah, he didn't
be able
know what
to-
was happening, but he had a weird fever and kind of like a growth on over the wound.
And he wrote on a notepad changing, which doesn't happen in the movie. Because you've seen that in the trailer, right?
Yeah,
Where he writes changing.
yeah.
Okay, spoiler. This isn't a big spoiler. He writes dying. In the movie, he writes dying, not changing. Which
Oh wow. So
makes so much
if
more
you,
sense, right? Like, you wouldn't be like, I think I'm changing. Like, have you ever had a bad fever or something and you're like, I think I'm changing?
you know what would have been cool? I mean, I'm assuming they did that to tease the whole aspect of Wolfman. But what if instead he wrote like vampire or aliens?
Yeah,
And that wasn't in the movie, but the trailer made people go, "Oh, there's a twist, I guess, of like aliens are involved."
that would be a really funny movie of a guy who, like, we've seen the trailers. He gets scratched by something, so it's not like a wolf bite or anything like explicit. So it's something like that, and the guy is like, "I'm turning into a vampire," but he's so clearly turning into a wolf, but he's confidently like,
Yeah,
"Nah,
he's like,
man, I think
cool.
I think they got me.
They're
I'm
like,
gonna."
are you coming out today? He's like, "No, I can't, man. I got bit by that vampire, so I gotta stay inside until night." They're like, I don't think.
And he's completely looks like a dog. They're like, I think you shouldn't go out at night, actually, because it's going to be a full moon tonight. You should actually stay inside. He's like, no, I think it's the day I got to worry about. I'm a vampire. I have a character I'm trying to unleash onto the world. It's the contrarian vampire. So he's like, I like the sun. I think the sun is good. I like the sunbathe. And everyone's like, no, Victor, you don't like the sun. He's like, no, its sun is good. And they're like, all right, well, let's get some pizza. Extra garlic? What? I like garlic. And they're like, you don't like garlic, Victor. And that's about as far as it goes. But yeah, we're spoiling Wolfman already. We're not going to talk about Wolfman, and we've already spoiled what he writes on the notebook. We'll sort of talk about it later. I'll give some thoughts on it, and Chris can make up some thoughts.
Yeah,
About Wolfman. You just fake it. I really liked all the vampires. I liked that the werewolves in Wolfman, they had bullets that they put sunlight into, and they shot those at the vampires. Pretty insane.
I'll just recite like Underworld
Yeah.
as if I had watched Wolfman. It's crazy that the vampire woman saved the werewolf, and then they fell in love, but it was forbidden.
That part was crazy. It would actually have been cool. I saw somebody, I think it was the editor of Fangoria, say that Julia Garner was miscast. And I wish I knew who he thought would have been a better cast for that, but it also should have been Kate Beckinsale. That would have been really, really good.
Yeah, that's true, because she would date a guy that's like half her age.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and she's playing Kate Beckinsale. She's playing herself.
Exactly. That's perfect.
But yeah, we'll talk about Wolfman later. Then we keep talking. Well, later we're going to talk about Wolfman. But this one part in it. I have some stuff I wanted to bring up to talk about. But what have you been watching recently? Something you want to bring up that's been good or bad?
Let's see. I did watch Better Man.
Sounds like 1970s Japanese like what is that
like
type
Ultraman?
of I'm Better Man.
Yeah, well, it is a superhero movie, a superhero biopic about Robbie Williams, the famous pop star,
British
pop star. Yeah, where he's a monkey the entire time, a chimpanzee. Sorry.
Yes, thank you.
I don't think you saw this movie, right?
I didn't. So I I think like many, it was just like okay. Like I actually remember Robbie Williams from Millennium. Remember that song?
Right.
That was it. That's the only Robbie Williams song. So I don't know much about him. And then the monkey thing is like some reason to see it, but I'm like, I don't know. But I've heard good things. What did you think about Better Man?
Yeah. I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. I think most of the time I avoid these like musician biopic movies.
Yeah.
But it's interesting in this one because I guess they thought, well, biopics are very played out. What can we do differently that would help the visuals? I don't know, maybe make it a little bit different. And so it's done by the guys that did Weta, so the guys that did like Lord of the Rings and all the Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah,
they did the computer graphics for it. So
we already got some
are
apes,
like
dude.
Fucking top notch. Yeah, they're like, we can just copy paste these over your actor, and it's gonna look fucking amazing. So the entire movie, like, he's not acting like a chimpanzee. There's nothing about that that's like, he's just a total normal dude with a reskin, right? And so it's interesting because visually you're never taken out of the movie, even though he looks like that the entire time, because there's a lot of surreal elements to it, or the shots will change to like almost like dreamlike sequences, but it stays, you feel like you're staying in the character the whole time because of the broken immersion in the first place. So it's like, it's really fluid with how it works, and it's super cool to see it.
So you think it's like better than if it was just Robbie Williams playing himself, which actually couldn't work, right? They would need to have a young actor and shit.
Yeah, because he basically was, most of this movie is him in his mid-20s, you know. And now he's, you know, I think 40-something.
Because he voices it, is that right?
So he does the narration,
okay,
but he doesn't voice the actual character.
Okay, I guess that makes sense too for like the kid ones. But I could see him voicing like the mid-20s version of himself,
which I had thought was the case, but I guess looking into it, I think it's still another actor, and which makes sense too because the acting is very good in it too. So I'm like, this can't be him because this is like really good. But yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because most people don't know him except for, you know, TRL in the early 2000s or whatever.
Yeah, and even then, like
Millennium song, it was like kind of like a, you know, So, but the thing is, like, he is like the biggest pop star in the UK. Like, I think he's only second to Taylor Swift for most seats filled in an arena in the UK. So, like, over there he's like a huge person, but I guess over here, really no one knows much about him. The only reason I still like he was relevant to me is because I had a cousin who lived in Tahiti, so she's French, European connection there, and that's how she like was really very big on him. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the story because it's basically like an NSYNC or Backstreet Boys member, like the bad boy of the group, getting kicked out after a couple of years and then just skyrocketing on his own solo career above and beyond the other guys that were in that group.
And did they get into like the Miss Doubtfire era or anything like that with him, and his work in Patch Adams stuff?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, knowing Robin Williams' story, you know how it ends, and it is very sad. But I can say there's only one Rob Williams in Hollywood that has tragically killed themselves, and it's not this.
It's not this one. No monkey business.
No.
Oh, no. That's rough. Everything about that was rough.
Yeah, no, but yeah, really interesting story, and then also. There's like other British pop stars or groups that pop up throughout the movie.
Kylie Minogue.
That are almost. It's essentially like watching a fucking Avengers movie, and you're like, "Oh fuck, that's the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy," popping up in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
But it'll be like the one-hit wonder group All Saints from back in the day.
Yeah, barely remember them,
Like,
but probably also
them?
TRL, right? Probably.
Yeah, well. So TRL is not in this, but it does show a clip from Millennium, but with the monkey ripping his flesh off instead of Robbie Williams. And then also like Oasis is in the movie too at some point. Like, so there's just kind of like all that kind of shit thrown in there. It's funny to see. But yeah, I mean, great drama. Also the thing with so throughout the movie, I think this is one of the best displays of like a celebrity with their self-hatred, because the entire rise of him growing up, he's like, dad left him, he blames himself, hates himself for it, and then so every time he's performing, he sees himself in the audience, and it'll be like a previous version of him that was shown earlier in the movie, so they can like reuse the CG assets, right? But it'll be like him from another show where he was wearing some stupid outfit, and he's just looking at himself from the crowd saying like, you deserve to die. I'm gonna fucking kill you, you piece of shit.
As an
stuff
ape,
like that.
it's
While he's
terrifying.
like, while he's like trying to perform, and he's like, oh god, and it's just kind of a cool thing to see that visually, a visual representation of it,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
It feels like doing the monkey or the ape thing, whatever he was, chimpanzee, was a good call. It feels like, even having not seen it,
Yeah.
there's just like are probably layers to that you don't immediately think about until you're in it, like even just seeing yourself, but it's an ape that's threatening you. It seems he's throwing his feces at himself. That's cool. I mean, it's more interesting than just a Robbie Williams movie to me.
Yeah.
But it is kind of crazy how there's this whole world that we don't know about where Robbie Williams is this huge
massive
star. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're just like,
yeah. And I think that's part of what made me want to see is like, I don't really know anything about him, but all I do know is like, he was very much like a fuck you type of attitude.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that at all.
Commercial stuff, he kind of was like, I'm gonna do it myself, and I'm gonna be the best. Fuck all of you, and then like did it essentially.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in the movie or if it was in the like trailers or hype where he's like doing a concert. I think it's a real concert footage. And he says, for the next 2 hours, you're mine. And I feel like I would feel so upset if someone said that to me. But then again, if it was like Dua Lipa that said that, I'd be like, yes. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah.
if you like them, you're into it.
Yeah. And it's the director of it is the same one that made The Greatest Showman. So, they're going to be good at making superhero movies
Yeah,
already.
any of the mans. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's cool. Better Man. Better Man
Yeah.
Turbo will be coming out next year, and then Better Man Legacies,
Better Man Origins.
which is like, well, how much more origins can we get? It was already
And a biopic.
pretty origin-y. It's just his mom and dad fucking for an hour and a half.
And his dad says that line to the mom. For the next hour and a half, you're
Yeah.
mine.
And then 30 seconds later, they're just laying there and he's staring up at the ceiling. Well, one thing I watched recently, and I don't know if you got to see it yet, was the American Primeval series on Netflix.
No, yeah, I really want to watch it. Been meaning to. Okay, how is it?
Yeah, so this is the Western series on Netflix. Feels very Tyler Sheridan, like 1863 style. Starring Betty Gilpin from Glow and The Hunt, which I keep seeing like articles on Facebook that are like, you can now finally watch this banned movie, and it's talking about The Hunt, and it's like, the movie wasn't banned. It like got delayed. Remember, it got delayed like by like 2 weeks or something. Like,
yeah, because it came out right when COVID happened.
yeah, like that was.
And then they were like, fuck it, we'll still release it in theater. Because I remember that was the movie that I was like, I don't want to go to the theaters.
And I did. It was the last one.
Watch like a shitty cam of it instead.
Yeah, it was the last one I saw in theaters before the lockdown, I think, and I was like a little nervous. But yeah, Betty Gilpin. Gosh, who else is in it? I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, Taylor Kitsch.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Dane DeHaan. Jai Courtney is in it.
Yeah, and I was like, is that Jai Courtney? And then it was. I was like, this is insane. He looks crazy.
Okay.
But kind of Shea Wiggum, I believe, is in it.
Yeah.
And so what was really weird about this, I mean, the trailers looked cool when I saw them. I think you shared it with me, months ago or weeks ago before it came out. I was like, oh, that's cool, like a gritty Western. But then I read it's made from the same producer as The Revenant, and apparently it's a sequel to The Revenant, like not really in any serious way.
Yeah, but like spiritually,
well, like
the writer had the same world in mind, even though nothing is directly related.
Well, Shea Wiggum's character is a character from The Revenant.
Oh,
apparently is what I read. He's the oh god, which actor is it? Let me see. The Revenant eyebrows guy. Will Poulter, the actor Will Poulter, who also played like the gold guy and was it Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or either that? Yeah. Play the gold guy in that. So Shea Wiggum is his character, which is like, it adds nothing to the show to know that, to be quite honest, but it is, I guess, interesting. But yeah, it's a pretty like brutal, in a way, don't get too attached to any character in some ways. And it's very much about the Church of Latter-day Saints and how they kind of had a death grip on Utah. That's where it takes place for the most part. So I found that really interesting because I didn't know anything about that or that history. Not to say it's like a one-to-one history of anything that happened there, but it seems to be taking a lot from that. Like, these nasty Mormons. But I really enjoyed it. It does suffer from Betty Gilpin's character just being a dumbass and always doing the wrong thing. So that gets annoying, but kind of stops after a little while. And and she chills out. But and you know, like that's what keeps you watching, right? Is when a character's constantly making the wrong decision that they think is right. But it's a little edging on the annoying side of it, where you're like, no, I actually don't agree that what you're doing is right. You know, you kind of want to see the character's case when they're doing stuff like that. You want to be like, yeah, I could see why you're doing that, and I guess you can, but she just comes off as like a know-it-all type of character. So yeah, I did really enjoy it, and there's probably about 3 or 4 storylines that kind of intersect throughout and that it's juggling with. But did I enjoy it as much as like an 1863, which was like the Yellowstone origin series that was like 8 episodes? They're like, this show's 6 or 8 episodes. That one was much. I don't think it was as good. And they feel very similar, you know, like we're trying to make it across to wherever we're going.
Okay.
So if anything, I would recommend just watching that series instead of this one. It's just better done. And there's some cool stuff about how brutal it is and whatnot. And like, I like some of the camera work that's very like Dutch angles and feels a little bit like what you wouldn't necessarily see in a Western. But yeah, it kind of just made me feel like it was a B tier 1863. So,
okay.
I wouldn't say don't check it out, but it's my like, no, go see 1863 finally, like instead, and then go watch this. Or I guess if you're gonna watch both, one will be a upgrade to the other. So, but yeah, even that being said, it's kind of cool to see a big budget Western on Netflix and have it be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I was most excited for was just that it was directed by Peter Berg.
Yeah,
He did Friday Night Lights, but then has gone on to do like really dumb shit like Battleship and stuff like that. But he, like, you know, reunited with Taylor Kitsch. I'm like hoping it would be better. I'm still definitely gonna watch it. But
there's you'll get annoyed just by some of the character things where, you know, it's just like, dude, say what you should say at this moment, you know, like that type of stuff. Where like if you just spoke clearly, things would be fine. But I'm also getting it so many story points of it confused with Horizon, the first saga, the God, who is it? Waterworld.
Horizon and American Saga.
Yeah. The first
Kevin
saga.
Costner movie?
Yeah, Kevin Costner calling him Waterworld. Because I watched that too.
Okay.
And honestly, that movie, the Horizon and American Saga, Chapter 1, feels like you watched an 8-episode series. And it's a 3-hour movie.
Oh, it's 3 hours. Okay, holy shit, yeah.
But that movie, every like 20 minutes, they introduce a new set of characters and situation. And you know, you get like 60 minutes into the movie, and you're like, oh, it's a 3-hour movie. You've introduced 3 totally different situations. This makes sense. I bet you're going to circle back to the first one and revisit it. But then it's like, here's a 4th set of characters and situations. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, you're probably going to circle back to the first one. And then you're an hour and a half in. And it's like, here's a 5th. Different characters and situations. And you're like, what? And then finally it like revisits, and you're like, okay, we're going to revisit every character. You're revisiting the first situation. Then after that, it's like, wait a minute, here's a 7th set of characters and situations. No, you're like, the movie's got an hour left. How are we going to do all this? And then it just keeps going like that until the end. And then the last like 8 minutes of the movie is just what seems like a fast montage of shots from the next movie.
No, no.
And
Oh god.
I could see 30 seconds of that or something, but it goes on for minutes where it's just like shots from the next one, and you're like, oh, what is this
Wow.
movie? It's insane.
And are you planning on seeing the second one? Is the second one out?
I have to. They'll probably keep. No, from what I understand, the second one, it did so poorly in theaters that they don't know what to do with it. So unless it like does so well on Netflix, it's screwed. Like
Oh,
nobody
okay.
knows what to do with it, because I mean, I don't know if like Netflix wouldn't want to buy it, or if they did buy the second one,
Why
you
why
know.
didn't they just make it like a I guess it's just Kevin Costner wanting to do whatever he wants. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's enjoyable, but it just like exactly how I described this, introducing a characters really detracts from it, because you're just
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
confused.
do you think it would have been better if it was a multi-episode, like a limited six series show
Yeah.
where it was split up into 6 hour long episodes
Yeah,
versus
definitely.
2 3 hour movies?
Yeah, and I think there might even be more than two movies. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't look too deeply into it, but it
Yeah.
might be more than that. I wouldn't be surprised with how the first movie went. But yeah, there's more storylines in it than there is in this American Primeval show. It's just truly bizarre. It felt a little like tiring to watch, and that's why I'm like, for a second I was about to bring up like a plot in American Primeval, and I was like, no, that was in Horizon. That it just didn't feel like a movie, a plot from a movie that I've seen. But they're also very similar, in what they're doing. It's about settlements and stuff that are struggling. So, but yeah, both those. It's kind of a good time to be a Western, but maybe not, because Horizon did bomb. So maybe it's not. But
Horizon did bomb, but I think American Primeval did really well, right?
which is, I wonder if Horizon did well on Netflix then, because like those two would have to hopefully feed on each other. The Yellowstone crowd, the Boomer crowd.
Yeah, that's true.
But then I could see a show, like look at a show, you're like, okay, I'll watch, and then you watch 3 episodes, and maybe 3 hours passes. I don't think people have the same thing when they see a 3 hour movie. I think people
Yeah.
generally are like, nah, I don't want to do that, because I don't want to have to stop a movie halfway through.
Yeah,
You know,
people really do love a show nowadays where they can go one episode and then I don't have to care about the show and come back to it later.
yeah. Even if they end up seeing the same amount of time as a movie.
Yeah.
Although I'm trying to not care about that. Even like yesterday, I did a double feature of Nope and I Saw the TV Glow. Two movies I've seen before, but
Oh,
I got the Blu-rays, so I was like, oh, I gotta
oh,
watch
nice.
these. But both of those, I didn't watch them straight. I was like, I'm gonna put this on. I was like, oh, should I? Because I want to watch it, but I don't want to interrupt it. I was like, fuck it. Like, as if it'll ruin it. The movie you've already seen, it's going to ruin it if you have to stop it halfway through and then we'll finish the rest. It's like, no, get over yourself. But yeah, those were great rewatches. Both those movies I still love. Even second, third time, however many times I've seen both of those, it was awesome. I know you saw Nope. Did you see I Saw the TV Glow?
Yeah, yeah, I did watch that one. I saw it on your top 10 for last year, so I went ahead and watched it because I had been meaning to. And I liked it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, was it kind of what you expected at all?
Um, I kind of, I guess, no, but also I wasn't expecting it to be anything really. I know that people were like, "Oh, it's heavily based on nostalgia," and then some people were saying like Buffy, and there definitely is elements of that, but then also like Power Rangers or like Goosebumps. I think a little bit more.
And even like
And
those two descriptions, I'm like, that's not really what the
yeah,
movie is or what
yeah,
makes it good.
yeah. Yeah, because I feel like, I guess what I was expecting is more of like a horror movie, but it is kind of like just this like weird, suspenseful, like mystery movie.
Yeah, because like for me, it wasn't anything like kind of what the trailer actually wasn't completely wrong in that promise, but kind of what people were saying of it's about nostalgia or it's like about the Buffy, like all that stuff,
Yeah, and
exactly
I
like you
mean,
said. And it's like
also like I mean the real importance of it is like it is like a story about like how you're doomed in life if you are repressed and like aren't able to come out as gay or trans or whatever.
yeah, and if you're thinking
Like,
even
that's
more
ultimately
broadly,
the story.
being true to who you are, who you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
be, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's way more that. So like I was not, obviously it was in my top 10. I wasn't disappointed by it, but I could see somebody watching it and being disappointed that it isn't like investigating more of nostalgia and like these TV shows, this Nickelodeon, style late night show. The way we might think about Are You Afraid of the Dark? And shows
Yeah,
like that. Like it shows some clips from the show, but not even a ton.
yeah, like
Like
barely.
it leaves you wanting to even watch more of the real show.
Yeah,
So yeah, I was just curious if that was bothersome or weird at all. But like ultimately, I think it's great. It really, what I think it's more like is the last episode of The Leftovers. Like
yeah,
to me it feels like that, especially how the Maddie character talks about what's really going on. It
right,
reminds me
yeah,
so much of Carrie Coon's character in The Leftovers, talking about when she
uh,
allegedly goes to the other
the other side.
side or whatever.
Yeah,
It really reminded me of that. Like it feels like that in a lot of ways.
true. Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's a really interesting way to look at it.
yeah, it seemed more like that because does have that whole like side of are you
Yeah,
lying?
like what is real, what isn't, and what does it matter? Like the whole point of it is like what makes you happy. Yeah,
I just
yeah,
can't believe old ass Justin Smith or Justice Smith
yeah,
playing a ninth grader. And you're like,
yeah.
bro, you're like 30. I've seen you fuck Sydney Sweeney in a movie. Like, what are you doing playing a ninth grader? But it works because he's so good at playing a pathetic little guy.
Yeah, he was great in it.
Yeah, he really is. It sucks that he is so old. I don't think it really detracts from the movie because everything's played well enough. But it is like, dude, you're not in ninth grade. I don't think you're in ninth grade when they show you there. But yeah, great movie. I got the A24 disc that comes with postcards, which the
Oh,
postcard selection. So I have a couple of their movies, and they come with like these like printed cardstock type of frames from the movie. I have that
uh-huh.
Love Lies Bleeding, and I think another movie, and the cards are cool, but there's usually like six of them or so. One of them is like a really fucking cool frame, and the rest are just you're like, why did you choose this
Are
one?
the rest of them just like their normal like logo art just thrown onto a postcard or something
It's
boring?
stills from the movie, but it's like that's not the best shot in the movie.
Yeah,
Like Love Lies Bleeding has one like bodybuilding shot of Katie O'Brien in it, but then the rest are kind of like whatever shots. And I'm like, I could think of so many more iconic shots, like when they're running when Katie O'Brien's huge and Kristen
yeah,
Stewart is on. Like put that one or put
yeah.
like. And same thing. There's one ice cream man shot in for I Saw the TV Glow and like a
Uh,
creature, and then the rest are just kind of like whatever shots. I mean, and I'm sure they're not the worst. They're not bad shots, but as far as like iconic shots from the movie that I would
Yeah.
consider, it's not that. So gets an F, but yeah. Anyways, tangent on some rewatches on Nope, and I saw the TV Glow, which I feel like those are movies I can put on again and again. But I want to throw it back to you for anything that you've been watching. You wanna bring up?
Yeah, let's see. What else did I watch recently? Um, oh, like that new Den of Thieves movie came out last weekend.
Yeah, and I've never seen the first one. Are you a Den of
Yeah.
Thieves guy?
No, I mean, I didn't watch it in the first place. So I went ahead and watched the first one, and I was like, oh, maybe
Okay.
I'll see the second one this weekend. And then after watching the first one, I was like, why did they make a sequel to this? And why? Who was asking for it? Really bizarre movie. It's like one of those heist movies where there's like a really big cast, and after
Yeah, who's
watching
some
it,
of it?
You can't remember who was in it.
Oh,
Like who?
yeah, who are
Gerard
some of
Butler
those? Okay.
and O'Shea Jackson Jr., 50 Cent are like the main guys. But then there's a bunch of other actors in it where you're like, oh, I know that guy. Or like actually, Max Holloway, the UFC fighter, in the movie.
Nice.
Also Michael Bisping in the movie. So I think there's, the producer or director really likes MMA or something like
Yeah.
that. Because
Which already shows you the quality of a movie when you have UFC fighters in it. That's not to say the movie will be bad,
yeah,
but it's going to be a certain type of movie.
yeah. So very interesting that it's this, Gerard Butler has like a squad of cops that are all like shitheads. And then O'Shea Jackson's group is like the criminals, and they're all also shitheads. So the movie is like two awful groups of people trying to fight each other. And then a lot of the dialogue seems ad-libbed, or like they're just like, you guys just need to have a conversation. So it's like Gerard Butler in the very beginning, is like trying to argue with like the FBI guy about jurisdiction and shit, and like they're trying to talk shit to each other, but none of their burns are good. So you're like, this is so fucking awkward. Why did they say these things? So I don't think it's like not worth watching, but it's just not really a great movie ultimately. I don't think. One of the main I guess like villain or the bad guy is the guy who played the Master Chief in Halo, the Halo show.
Fuck, it's crazy, the state of the world we're
Yeah.
in. I've never seen the Halo show.
Okay.
Like,
yeah,
is
well, I
that-
mean, I only watched like 2 episodes.
Yeah,
of it.
is that the world where we're in the abundances?
Yeah,
we're
there's
in
so many
where
things that we have
didn't
to
even
skip.
give a
This
shit.
thing is like a Halo show.
Yeah, we would have died for that when we were 18, even.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think there's even like Gerard Butler's crew kidnaps O'Shea Jackson Jr. because they figure out he's part of the bad guy gang to make him like their mole. They're like, oh, if you listen to us, we're not going to fuck you over. But like, they knock him out, and he wakes up in their like apartment where they have him like hostage, and they're all like with strippers and like playing pool and drinking, and they're like, we're not going to rape you. And
God,
he's like,
one
it's
of
just shit
those.
like that where you're like, what the fuck are they even saying right now? Or actually, I'm sorry. And then there's a scene where Gerard Butler sees O'Shea Jackson like bartending, and he's like, I would fuck you. Like he just like says that to him mid conversation.
Yeah,
And, like,
it's like a
grins at
certain type of humor and like machismo, right?
And like the movie starts with Gerard Butler's character being found out by his wife that he's cheating, and then him like being upset about it. So you're like, okay, this guy is like a fucking piece of shit person.
Yeah.
And then through the whole movie, it's basically just a bunch of cops trying to find any way to like murder these guys who are also murdering people. It's
Wasn't
just one of
he
those.
also? It was Gerard Butler in Cop Shop too, right? Did you
Yeah,
ever see that one?
I didn't see that one. I want to see it. I'm sure it's much better than this movie.
Cop Shop is fun, but it's the same type of movie that I'm kind of glad like Gerard Butler is just like sign me up for all of those. Like you could tell he just
Yeah,
likes that shit.
yeah. Well, I mean, because like the Olympus Has Fallen, all those movies, Olympus, fucking London Has Fallen. There's like it's like a trilogy
Yeah.
of movies, right?
London,
Those,
Olympus, and I forget the last one.
yeah. Angel Has Fallen. I think that's the first one. But yeah, anyways, those movies are like, oh no, Olympus is the first one. They're like pure action movies of like, let's just protect the president, and it's essentially like a fucking Call of Duty
Yeah.
style single player level of just like shooting all the bad guys in the head. Those are like fun in that they're just, turn your brain off and see people getting shot. But then this one I feel like tries to do this like gritty thing, and it's like, I don't know.
It's trying to be
too
funny or
close to
clever.
reality.
Yeah.
And it's like too close to reality of like, yeah, I get it. Like everyone is a piece of shit in those situations. So, but it's not really fun or funny. And there actually, not to spoil anything, but there is like a little bit of a twist at the end of the movie where you're like, this doesn't need to have this twist. But it does. And that makes it like more stupid, but also the entire reason why there would be a sequel. And it's like, it feels so forced and hilarious to watch it now, knowing there is a sequel to it.
And did you see the sequel as well?
And then no, so I saw it and I was like, I'll wait for the other one to be on streaming. I'm not gonna go to the theaters to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard some people talking about it as the second one came out, and like I did not know it was a movie. Like the first one totally, because I think it was 2018 maybe or something like that it came out.
Yeah, 2018. Yeah,
it was a while ago, so I didn't remember it at all. When Den of Thieves 2 was announced, I was like, I have no idea what this is. But then some, podcasts were like, no, it's really a fun movie, this, and I was like, all right, this kind of is interesting to me, but it was also like, this is a really bad movie, but it's fun type of thing. So yeah, I think right now it's only like for rent on places and stuff. I don't think I saw it streaming anywhere.
I think so.
Yeah, so I'll wait until it's streaming, and then it might be like a fun thing to throw on. Same thing, like Cop Shop came up on like Amazon Prime. I was like, all right, I'll watch this. I didn't want to see it when it came out in theaters.
Oh, actually, you know what? You can stream Den of Thieves on Max.
Oh, okay, the one that I don't have.
Yeah.
I need to cancel all mine because I don't have any income currently, so
yeah.
I really need to cancel as many of those as I can.
Cancel them like they said something racist on X.
That gets a follow from me.
That's true.
But another like rewatch that I wanted to shout out, because basically like in December, I went to like a pop-up type of event, and which company was there? Vinegar Syndrome was there, who do Blu-rays and shit and re-releases. So I bought a bunch of shit there, and then for Christmas I got a bunch of movies. So kind of been working through some rewatches of movies that I just really love and wanted to own, and one of them was Maxine, the Ty West, the third in the trilogy of Pearl, and Maxine. So obviously I really liked it when it came out in theaters, but I had to get the Blu-ray, watched it again, and man, I just love that fucking movie. That movie rocks so hard. It's so cool. Have you seen Maxine yet? Because I think I
think we did review it.
Did we?
Right? Didn't we?
I forget, because whenever it came out, maybe we did. That would have been like one of the last ones we did, I think.
Yeah.
But on the rewatch, I mean, I was just like, dude, this might be my favorite one from last year just on the rewatch. And I don't think I've rewatched every movie that was in my top 10.
Uh-huh.
So it's hard to say. But man, we got Creole Kevin Bacon in it. That
Oh, yeah.
alone is worth it. It's just got that like sleazy, like sex hooker type vibe. Like I was rewatching this movie Angel, which is I believe from the 80s, and it's about an underage hooker, basically, and a serial killer in the LA streets. So Angel and Maxine, like Maxine was heavily taking from Angel. You know, they're very similar in premise and everything. And like those movies are so fucking cool. Just this nasty Los Angeles, great soundtracks. I love that Maxine soundtrack. And the character of Maxine is just so cool, just like really not taking shit from anybody the entire movie. Like the entire movie, she's never really a victim at all. She's just like, people are fucking with me. Okay, well,
Yeah.
fuck this. I just love everything about it. Like, I only watched it maybe a week and a half ago. I'm like, I want to put that shit on again. It was so sick. So yeah, I just wanted to give that movie another shout out. Should probably just dig through the special features before I watch it again, or like a commentary. But yeah, really cool. And Pearl, I really like. Pearl I've rewatched semi recently. I haven't seen X since I first saw it in the theater though, so I got to give that one another rewatch. I'm sure I would enjoy it again. I remember liking it when I saw it, but that whole trilogy I think is really cool, and Maxine I think might be my favorite of all of them.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, give it another check out.
I watched one of the movies I watched at the end of last year was The Order. Have you seen that one?
Which one is that?
It just came out. So a string of violent robberies in the Pacific Northwest leads a veteran FBI agent into a domestic terrorist plot to overthrow the federal government. It has Jude Law in it and Nicholas Hoult.
Oh, not at all. I think this one
Yeah.
completely, like, I missed it on the radar completely.
Yeah, it came out like at the very end of the year, and I feel like it was limited release, and then it went straight to streaming, so you had to like rent it. So I ended up renting it, but it's based on I believe a book about basically Nick Holt plays this like neo-Nazi in the Pacific Northwest who basically like rises to power and uses, I forgot what the book is, but they refer to themselves as the Order, and they're basically just trying to they rob a bunch of banks across the West Coast, and Jude Law is like the FBI agent trying to find him. So it's just like a very straightforward, tense thriller that is based on a true story and based on a novel. And it was like, it's really good, really solid.
What accent is Jude Law using?
I'm pretty sure he's not doing an accent.
It's just his voice?
Yeah.
Okay, I was
Well,
sure.
sorry, an American accent, because he's not American. So.
Wait, so how does he talk?
There's just like an American.
Oh, okay, so he's doing an American accent.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, is he British or American?
Yeah.
Okay.
He
does a Gattaca then. I forget.
Yeah.
Was he American in Gattaca?
Yeah, was he?
No one remembers. I actually don't think he was. I think he did do a British accent.
For sure, yeah. But yeah, that was just a real quick, like, solid movie I watched, and then also Strange Darling I watched. I don't think you watched that one yet either, right?
Oh gosh, that doesn't sound familiar. Oh no, I didn't. I really wanted to when it was in theaters. I heard such cool things. The like
Yeah.
serial killer movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's like a serial killer going on a murder spree. I believe also along the West Coast. So there's a theme for the movies that I'm watching.
Yeah, you're preparing for something.
But yeah, I think with this one, it is interesting because I guess with the director is like a relatively new director, but it's like a very Tarantino-esque style for the director, including like time jumps throughout the movie. But there isn't really any big twists in it that would warrant like time jumping. And like very early on, there's like a pretty simple twist in the movie that is like, you know, 1/3 the way through it. Like after the first act, like that twist is shown, the hand is shown, and then there's nothing like really different throughout the rest of it.
Okay.
And to me, it's almost like that twist was their like gotcha. Like this is the entire idea of what makes the movie elevated, but then because of that, it really just falls flat to me as like a okay, well, it's kind of like a one-trick pony type thing of like they wanted to do something different, but that's all they did was focus on doing something different, flipping a script, and then that's it. And like the rest is kind of just whatever because of it.
Interesting, because that's the one thing that I heard about it, but I didn't know what it, like, I didn't have anything concrete of it, but it was like, oh, there's a twist or something like is shocking or surprising in it. And I didn't know what that meant, if that was, you know, halfway through, if it was an ending twist or anything. That's kind of how it was sold, like, oh, if you want to kind of get fucked up with some crazy thing. But it sounds like it's more like the premise of the movie more so than like
and to the point that like it's pretty like there's a handful of things you could guess from watching the trailer of like what could the twist possibly be from just watching the trailer, and you would most likely guess what it is, and that's kind of why it's like, well, I mean, interesting, unique perspective, but then they don't really like do anything with that unique perspective to like really rise above.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
cinematography by Giovanni Ribisi though.
Yeah. So I mean, the movie looks great. It does look great. There's this like house in the middle of the movie that they go to that is like extremely well dressed and looks like a very cool location to shoot, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, it's one I want to check out. I'm sure it'll like show up on Shudder or something at some point.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's too high budget for Shudder. Sometimes they get kind of the more low budget horror. They did get Red Rooms recently that I want to check out. That it sounds like an interesting movie about someone who gets obsessed with like red rooms where, you know, people pay on the dark web to see people get killed and tortured.
Oh, that's a thing? Okay. I didn't know that.
I know it well because
spoiled the movie, dude. You spoiled it.
There was a comic book series called Red Rooms that was about that. And I think the artist and writer died recently. But
of mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, he died online on the dark web.
Oh, shit.
Edward Pincer, I think it was. But it's a cool series that basically it's about different like mini stories in this Red Room world. I would highly recommend that if you like just like it's got really like nasty art, like just gross looking characters and stuff. But yeah, I want to check out that movie. Since it's on Shudder now, but gotta watch it when the wife's not in the same room, or else she'll be like, "What are you watching this time?"
She'll be worried about you. She's like, "Are you okay, Joe?"
Another weird fucking thing. Last time I saw Kevin Bacon getting annihilated. What are you doing? Another thing I wanted to talk about, see if you've been catching up on it, is the Beast games.
No, I haven't watched them. How are they?
Dude, so I watch a decent amount of Mr. Beast. I don't watch all of his videos because some of them just don't seem interesting on YouTube. Some of them do, but I'm trying to think. There was some recently that I I forget if it was just like some simple. We had 1,000 people compete for 5 million, which essentially is Beast Games, but like he's done some videos like that. Um, but some of his are really interesting, so I'll watch them. So I'm a bit of a fan, although like I think any criticism of him is certainly warranted, and he seems fucking weird and
Yeah, totally.
but
I mean, I used to watch him like years ago. So but I don't really watch him anymore.
yeah, I
But
wonder how it was years ago versus now, like just the level of some of the videos too, like because now it's just
yeah,
insane.
they were nowhere near as massive with these like giant sets and stuff. The stuff I used to watch was he'd just be like, we're gonna give this homeless man a credit card and they can buy whatever they want at, and give him an apartment or some shit.
Yeah.
And it's
Now it's like we have
really
50
simple
homeless
things like that.
people and 50 credit cards
Yeah.
scattered on this island worth $1 million.
Yeah, so I haven't really watched him too much since then.
And what's crazy is how big his videos have gotten, even on his YouTube channel. I think the question has always been like, oh, why would he go to a network at all? Because he's already doing huge stuff. And like, I've heard people's deals on networks, like what they get. And it's just like, you don't make a lot of money a lot of the times. Like you can, but a lot of people don't. So it made sense why he would never go do like a Netflix show or something. So I was kind of surprised that he would even do Amazon Prime show. Like I think we've talked about Eric Andre and his movie, the Bad Trip movie. They're like, we made maybe $10,000 off that movie.
Yeah.
Like just sad shit about the state of shit. Oh, what's up, Ricky? In the chat. But yeah, I was always surprised. Okay, how would that look? But it goes big. Like they obviously not just in like how much money they're giving away, but the sets and all that and the different sequences.
Yeah, so you think it's just like he's like, okay, Amazon, you foot the bill, and I don't have to worry about shit. And then they're like, okay, but what if we run it very poorly to the point that there's investigations and people will hate you for it specifically? It's like, oh, well, perfect.
Well, that's kind of the crazy thing that I do wonder how it looks compared to his movies, because once you get into like if there's a union involved or anything, which reality TV is dicey with any of that, like the rules versus when you do like, let's say Squid Games, the narrative show, like just a different, even though that was, I don't know if it was shot in South Korea, different than Hollywood, but like just speaking to like a Hollywood narrative fiction show, union rules are different versus a reality, and then way different compared to a YouTube show where there are no fucking rules. Like, like a show on, if you shoot a Netflix narrative fiction show, it's like, oh, if you have a baby, the baby can only work for 30 minutes and then it needs 24 hours off. Like there's all those rules and shit. But if you wanted to have a YouTube video where you filmed a baby for 24 hours, you could. Like that's the kind of thing. So I was really curious, how is any of this? How does this change their workflow, right? And I imagine that must have been something he talked about where, I mean, he has the control, he has the leverage where it's like, oh, Amazon Prime or Netflix or whoever, you want to do a show with me? Well, I can do this and make this much and this on my own. Can you beat that? Because I'm not going to fucking do this for 20 grand an episode. Like if I take home that, like,
yeah,
we got to do better than that. Because this isn't helping my channel either. I'm sure he'll make $0 on his channel making videos, like just put all that cost into making the video, because it's going to help my channel, so it's worth it.
Mhm.
So I wonder how all that went, but I'm sure it worked out for him because he has the the bargaining power. But that being said, it's funny how much they rip off Squid Games in certain ways, especially given that one, Squid Games already had a reality show on Netflix, and that
Yeah.
he already did Squid Games
Yeah, as a
before the
YouTube
reality
video.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they have characters in it that are like the minions that have masks that are just like
Oh.
exactly. They don't have the square, triangle, and all that, but they have like
Uh,
symbols on their mask. It's just like
they have
so.
a they have an ABXY like Xbox controller instead of a PlayStation
Yeah,
controller
shit like
on their
that.
mask. What
So
the fuck?
it's like
Wow.
some of that stuff. It's like, yeah, you're just doing that.
Shameless.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at least he still kills them when they lose, like Squid Game.
Yeah. That was
At
the
least he
so they
sticks to his guns.
that was the fucking gnarly thing about the Netflix Squid Game TV show, the reality show, was that they simulated them getting shot and shit. Like that was so insane. It's like, whoa, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
that's so unnecessary.
Yeah, it feels like you're playing exactly into what people would criticize like
Yeah.
this for, of like, wow, you're being like grotesque about this show. But honestly, I'm enjoying it, especially as like something to watch with my wife, because we don't like, she won't watch American Primeval. Like that's not her type of show, and she likes, if she's gonna watch a show, it's something like some werewolf vampire romance show. So we don't have a lot of shows we watch together. It's usually reality, like a Queer Eye show or something like that. So this we're enjoying watching together. I think it's kind of like a lot of these reality competition shows, I feel like they're better at forming like a narrative across the season of like following certain characters and stuff that he doesn't do so well, but it does pretty well. And maybe that's just kind of maybe his style, like from the YouTube, like the chaos and quickness of doing these YouTube competitions versus like, it's an art form, crafting a narrative from random events in a competition show that like reality TV show producers do really well. So it's kind of missing that, although there are like, characters that you remember and stuff. But I think maybe just the way the show is set up, it's so chaotic of when people are going to get eliminated and who, that you can't really like bank on staying with anybody.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm actually really enjoying it. I'm excited to see how it ends and what he does next with it. But he's definitely a weird figure. Like.
Yeah, well, like I mean, he sees how to become popular and viral on YouTube, like Matrix Code. That's why it's weird, because he's like, he can't be a normal person because he just sees like, how do I make my channel bigger? How do I make even more money? It's like, that's all he sees.
And with people too, he's probably he's talking to some stranger and then he's like, if you said that again, you could make a channel, but you only say that. And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of just a person, dude. But yeah, he's weird. I love the theories of how his name's Mr. Beast, and then they say like, the mark of the beast will be the Antichrist, who seems like they're doing good for humanity, but is really ushering in our demise. I think all that shit's hella funny, how perfectly it maps onto like him.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 346 million subscribers. Wait till he gets to 666 million.
And then it just stops there.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Any additional subscriber dies instantly of mysterious circumstances.
Well, that'll be his last video. He's like, everyone listening, if you don't subscribe before 666 million, you will die.
Yeah, or once he hits 666, he says, what people didn't know when they subscribed is they were entering in a competition where they would be chased by demons. Fuck. Good thing I don't subscribe. I shadow subscribe. Actually, I'm not sure.
He does say to subscribe because he goes through, at least in his old videos, he contacts people for his competition ones where it's like, 2,000 people fight for $5 million. He goes through like his subscriber list and then messages them to invite them to compete.
It seems like a lot of the people now he chooses YouTubers. So like,
yeah,
it's always somebody with some like, maybe not even a crazy following, but a decent following.
They're like, I have like 30K followers on Instagram or some shit.
Yeah, or usually YouTube, they'll be like 10K, 30K, something like that. It seems like that's what he goes for. But yeah, pretty interesting show so far. Probably gets a lot more people into him that wouldn't have been. Like, I don't think my dad watches Mr. Beast at all on YouTube, but then he saw the show on Prime and he's like, I think I'll watch this. So I think you're going to get a lot of people who kind of transition. But yeah, crazy how many products that guy has, like action figures and stuff.
Yeah, candy and shit.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm like I get the candy. I even get the lunchlies, that you're doing with other people, but like these Beast Labs figures, like who's like, oh yeah, Mr. Beast, like Panther head figure. Like,
those are like straight up for the kids. Like,
yeah,
the most out of all of his things, but totally like my nephew who's like 9, he's all about Mr. Beast, so he's gonna be like, I gotta get the candy, I gotta get the lunchly, I gotta get because of the lunchly, like I have to get Prime. It's like that shit just infects them.
Gotta get the BPAs. I like Prime. I don't drink it anymore just because people are like, it's so bad for you, but it tastes so good.
The fucking energy drink ones, right? Kids are like, oh, I love Prime, and like my nephew, and then he would drink the energy ones. We're like, you should not drink those under any circumstance. Like, you can drink the Gatorade ones, but do not drink energy drinks that are 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah.
If you're fucking 9 years old.
Because you'll drink fucking 4. I remember, like, me and Jensen drinking, like, 4 Monster energy drinks in the course of a night playing games, and you're like, no, you're not supposed to do that.
Buying a case of Monster.
Yeah, the Costco.
Be like, this is our drinks for tonight.
Yeah, bad stuff.
And Monster Hunter Wilds comes out next month, so
I know.
Time to buy another case of Monster.
Oh gosh, I might have to play that game. Maybe I'll probably end up streaming that game because like there's not a lot of games I feel like streaming at all. I'm not like a game streamer, but I think Monster Hunter Wilds, I think I'll use that as like a excuse to stream, to buy a game, to be like, okay, I'll stream that. Fuck it.
Yeah, I mean that one would be it. For sure.
Although recently I played, I was just up one night and like I don't want to play Call of Duty. I've been playing that, like the newest Call of Duty online, just as kind of like a turn your brain off and play a game type thing. And then I was like, I'm sick of this. Let me get back to Monster Hunter World, and loaded it up. I have my character and stuff that's pretty, decent from when I played. I was like, okay, I'll do a hunt, and then just 45 minutes later, I'm still fighting this thing. It's like, you have 10 minutes left. And I was just like, I hate this fucking game. Like, I'm tired. I want to quit. It was, by that time, it's like 12:30 at night. I'm like, this sucks. So it reminded me, like, dude, this game's so brutal with, like, you can't pause. You can't save. Yeah. You are on the hunt, and you're running out of stuff because you didn't realize how hard it was gonna be, and you're gonna lose everything.
Did you ever play Monster Hunter Rise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, was I playing World? No, I was playing Rise. Yeah, I wasn't playing World.
Oh, you were playing Rise? Okay.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no
because they
reason to
did a
play
lot
World
to make
anymore.
it easier. Well, I mean, the thing with World is that like the graphics are still way better than Rise,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of gameplay, like quality of life simplifications that oh, the fans are divided on whether it being like better or like too easy compared to World.
I don't think
That
it's
I don't
that
think.
huge, but like compared to before World, from everything pre-World, the newest one to that, it was massive. Like it was a no-brainer. Like, oh, you have to use an item, you need to stop completely and not move at all. Oh, you want to gather, you need to stop your character completely at a dead stop and pick up. Like that
Yeah,
shit was brutal. Then World was like, oh, this is so much nicer. I feel like the gap of increase was not as much as that for Rise, but
yeah,
still, yeah.
that's true. Yeah, I think it's part of it is like you have a permanent mount, so you can get around extremely fast in the zip line
Yeah.
whip thing.
Well, and those are just like, yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah,
not
those are
breaking the
just like
game.
it just makes it quicker because you get to the point of the fun part, which is killing the monster.
Yeah. Just for me, it's that whole, you're in a hunt, you're in it for 45 minutes, or 50 minutes. I think the timers for those are at 50 minutes, and like generally if it's actually a good hunt, it's not like something totally underpowered that's useless for fighting. It's going to take you 35 to 45 minutes to kill it. Like if you have a
Yeah,
group, you might do it faster, but like if it's actually something worth hunting, it's going to take about that much time with no pausing, and if you die, you lose everything. No progress, no experience points. Like that shit is just brutal, especially if you're like pretty casually gaming. But we'll see how Wild is. I mean, I gotta get it. I gotta play it. I think I have every single Monster Hunter game that released in the U.S. I own it, and some of them in sealed. I have a PlayStation 2 Monster Hunter sealed, and I have an unsealed copy, so it's like I gotta own it. But anyways, let's just get to talking a little bit about Wolfman.
okay.
Finally, we won't get too heavy because you haven't seen it. But just before we wrap up, I can give some thoughts on it. So Lee Wanell, what did you think of the? I know we talked about it, but it was quite a while ago. The Invisible Man, from Lee Wanell.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed that movie. Thought it was pretty well done, but I think it felt to me like it was too held back by itself in terms of like how insane a person with an invisible suit fucking with people could be.
I think that's probably because like they were the villain, right? Versus like the main character being the invisible suit person, where you can kind of do more with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I
But yeah,
really liked it too. I thought it was a weird take on the Universal Monsters stuff, which is so fucked now because you have the Mummy with Tom Cruise, which I never saw, but like doesn't feels like it's such in a different place than the Invisible Man. And it's like,
it's man, that movie is a fucking wild decision. It's like one of the most forgettable movies I've ever seen, I think.
it's
You
just
should watch it
crazy.
just because it's like, why the fuck? None of this is interesting. None of this is fun. Who the fuck is this for? It's so boring and stupid.
Yeah, especially when you look at like, okay, the Invisible Man that Lee Wanell did. Oh, you seem to like have put a staked your claim as why you should exist as a
Yeah.
movie. It's like, okay, here's an interesting take. Well, the Tom Cruise Mummy feels like you just kind of were trying to do the Mummy that wasn't the Universal's Mummy movie, but it is. So that whole project is kind of fucked. And I think anytime one of these Universal monster movies comes out, it's kind of lumped in with that. And people are also thinking back to the 30s movies and 40s movies from those and like comparing them to those versus like, hey, these are just their own thing, or maybe they're an evolution of those. And I think that's kind of where the Wolfman sits too, because I actually haven't seen the Lon Chaney Wolfman from, I think it's 1931. It's a pretty old movie.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Never seen it. But we've had a lot of werewolf movies since then. And this one I was reading in Fangoria magazine, an interview with the director Lee Wanell, famous for Saw, that it's really, he was inspired by The Fly and The Thing.
Okay.
And I think that is knowing that is kind of important going into it, because it definitely doesn't feel like a Wolfman movie, or I should say a werewolf movie. And I say that having just seen Werewolves, which was Frank Grillo. Was it Frank Grillo?
Yeah.
And that movie, the premise is crazy. So basically, it is year 2. It was originally called Year 2, where 1 year during a supermoon, which is the fullest full moon, anybody who was under the full moon turned into a werewolf. So it was like a pandemic of werewolves one night that just killed a bunch of people. So then everyone had a year to prepare for the next supermoon, that they knew this would happen again. And it takes place on the day of year 2. So people know that, hey, we can't go in under the moonlight. We know that some people are going to go and turn into werewolves. And it's kind of like The Purge, where we got to prepare, but not everybody. So it's Frank
Grillo in another Purge movie?
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Wait, so anyone that is under the light, the moonlight, turns into a werewolf?
Yeah.
So, like, that's part of the thing, is, like, they can't get seen by the moonlight, or else they will turn as well?
Yeah.
Oh,
so if, like, you need to escape or run somewhere, you gotta
So, like, is an umbrella enough?
It's... The rules are all over the place. Like, at one point, they run with, like, just tarps over them and stuff, and they're fine. So I'm not sure... You know,
or like if they see the reflection of the moon, like in the glass window.
Yeah, it's because, like, it is weird. Like, is it the moonlight? Is it, like, if the light from the moon goes from a puddle and blasts up at you? I mean, what is it? Or is it just you looking at it? It is weird. It doesn't make full sense. But it's also very much a B movie that isn't trying to make sense, and it's kind of bad, but it is fun. But I bring it up because, like, it's very much a werewolf movie. You know, transformations. You have, like, these very, like, fucking classic werewolves that look awesome. And this movie is not so much that. It is kind of, like, about a man changing over the course of the movie. And also very much, like, has an emotional core of like, you were traumatized as a kid. As a father now, will you traumatize your kid? What does it mean to be a father protecting your family and stuff like that? So I thought it was I actually really enjoyed it while watching it, especially knowing that they were going for, like, The Fly. I think if I didn't know that, I might be disappointed of, like, when you watch a werewolf movie, you're kind of waiting for the transformation scene.
Yeah.
Right? But this movie is a little bit more like the entire movie is a transformation scene. You know, or the bulk of the movie. It's like a really extended transformation. Which is kind of cool because also, like, when somebody transforms immediately in front of you or pretty quickly, you kind of know how to react. You know, you're like, let me get the fuck away from them or stop them or whatever. But imagine if someone's, like, transforming so slowly, you're never quite sure, like,
Have they
should I
fully
be scared
transformed
of
yet?
them?
Or...
Yeah, like at what point do I become scared of them because this is happening so slowly? Like I think that's kind of an interesting thing about it too, where you're just kind of like, okay, they're obviously past the midpoint of being transformed, but it's happened so slow. What the fuck? Like, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I definitely get if people weren't really into it. And I think people have been pretty mixed, like 50-50 on it. Um, and I think some of that's due to expectations of it. I think another part of it is maybe it is a little like overly sentimental and doesn't have as many like badass moments and exciting moments as you might hope. But it's also like a really small movie at the same time. Like there really are only 4 characters in it.
Okay.
And what does that mean? That means you're not going to get like tons of kills.
Right.
Like how many kills are you going to get when there's 4 characters and 2 of those are Wolfman?
I mean, it is essentially like a slow burn Wolfman movie, like extremely slow burn Wolfman.
Yes and no. I mean, like there's 2 Wolfmans in it. So there's exciting stuff that happens. It's not just a slow burn, but
oh wait, so it's called Wolfman, but it should be called Wolfman's.
Basically, yeah. Which I didn't know from the trailers, and I don't think the trailer shows explicitly.
The trailer does show. Well, I mean, I'm assuming because the trailer shows they get in the car accident, and then he's like, "Ow, something scratched me."
Yeah, you know, there's another Wolfman.
Like, yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of surprised a little bit of how much like they both play. They're both very much in it, so it's like,
and also surprising that they have a sex scene, a gratuitous wolf on wolf doggy style sex scene,
where it's like, oh, they're just going through their animalistic behaviors, having sex with each other, and the wife and daughter have to just watch. But yeah, so it's weird because I mean, like I said, you want the transformation scene, you're waiting for that, and you also want to see kill scenes. Yeah. You know, and with 4 characters, 2 of which are Wolfmen, you're not gonna get those. It's not gonna happen. So, kind of strange in that way. So I don't think it's as like refreshing as The Invisible Man is, where it was kind of like, okay, I see where you went with this take, and that's cool. Even though like I think what you said about it is of Invisible Man is kind of true of like, oh man, they could explore more of an invisible person. But I think the fact that the Invisible Man kind of is in the eyes of the victim in that version is like worthy enough.
That movie is tied to like it having to be everything having to be a metaphor for like an abusive relationship and not an actual invisible man. You know, it's like it has to be more of like the traumatic experiences of an abusive boyfriend, where in reality it's like an invisible guy isn't going to be this like slow at fucking with someone to the point that they're just there every like once a night to like fuck with them and then they leave and fuck off. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Psycho abusive dude is basically all it is. But yeah, all that being said, I definitely say knowing that, check it out. And I think the Fly thing is kind of, if you like that movie, you can go into it knowing that it's like that, and that's interesting on its own. But yeah, so I dug it, but didn't like love it. It's not going to be in my top 10 or anything, you know. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Wolfman. I'm excited to have you see it and see what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really did want to see it, mostly just because I like Julia Garner a lot.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
like
sad to hear that apparently there's a miscast of her.
Yeah, you know,
I do think it's funny.
I thought I agreed with that, but I don't disagree with it.
Okay. Yeah, Christopher Abbott is funny because I feel like he continually plays these roles where he just gets like fucked over and has to be like a monster or
What
like a
else was he in?
possessor.
Oh
Possessor.
yeah.
And then he was like the boyfriend in Poor Things, the abusive boyfriend.
I actually haven't seen Poor Things or Kinds of Kindness. I got to see both those
Oh,
Yorgos Lanthimos movies.
oh, really? I haven't seen Kinds of Kindness yet either, but yeah, Poor Things was excellent.
Yeah, I've really wanted to watch those when I want to watch those. You know, like can sit down and really see them. I felt the same way about I Saw the TV Glows when I finally saw it months ago. I was like, no, I want to see that when like I'm gonna be undisturbed. I know I can just lock in, and I'm
Poor
glad I did.
Poor Things is interesting because there's a lot of people that disliked it because Emma Emma Stone's character is basically a child brained
Yeah, the
in an
Born
adult
Sexy
body.
Yesterday.
Yeah, but the thing with that is like the movie knows that. That's the one difference that I don't think people who were
People
criticizing it
are
understand.
idiots. Yeah.
Like, well, because the thing is, like, I understand that for a movie like The Fifth Element or some shit, right? But with this movie, it's like that is the point of it. Like, that's why the people that are fucking her are gross and disgusting and evil.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that's the bit, guys. Like, they're really going hard on that to show like how awful that is.
Yeah, there's a lot of film criticism, especially from younger people now, that is like, oh, if you're showing the thing, you're endorsing the thing. It's like, well, no, sometimes you're showing the thing to not endorse it. You're
Yeah, to show that it's bad or to yeah, have commentary on it. But yeah, so I liked it a lot.
well, cool. Well, we should wrap up there. I'm gonna pause the stream for a little while to get ready for Shut Up, I Love It at around 8 or 8:10 ish. But good chatting movies with you as always.
Yeah.
We'll do it again next week at some point, and we'll see what we're talking about.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. Any last
Next
words?
week. Yeah, let me just look up next week. We got let's see here. Oh, Flight Risk is next week.
Y'all need a pilot. Yeah, Flight Risk we gotta watch. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely watching that. And then Presence is also coming out. That's supposed to be really good. The Steven Soderbergh, Lucy Liu
Oh yeah.
horror movie that's like people are saying is really good. So
Yeah, that seems like a weird one, but definitely y'all need a pilot. We got to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. It's gonna shut down for a second, then come back with the waiting soon or coming soon message. So